Here is something that should concern every single person watching this video. Right now, official government figures confirm that 6 out of every 100 state pension claims in the United Kingdom is being paid at the wrong rate. Not 1 in 1,000. Not 1 in 100. 6 in every 100. And the most alarming part is this. The underpayment rate is actually going up, even after 4 years of government correction exercises that were supposed to fix the problem. We are not talking about small amounts of money here. Some pensioners are owed thousands of pounds in back payments. One woman received more than £30,000 in arrears after her national insurance record was finally corrected. Another received nearly £16,000. These are real people who were quietly receiving less than they were entitled to, often for many years, and in many cases they had absolutely no idea. So today, we are going to look at exactly which 3 groups of pensioners are most at risk of being underpaid, why this is happening, and, most importantly, what you or a family member can do to check whether any of this applies to you. Your state pension is not simply a flat payment that everyone receives equally. The amount you receive is directly linked to your national insurance record, the number of qualifying years you have built up over your working life. Under the current new state pension system, you generally need 35 qualifying years of national insurance contributions or credits to receive the full amount. If your record shows fewer years than you actually accumulated, your pension will be lower than it should be. And here is the critical point. Errors in that record do not automatically trigger an alarm. In many cases, the DWP simply pays the amount the record suggests you are owed, whether that figure is correct or not. This means that pensioners can go months, even years, receiving less than their full entitlement, not because of any fault of their own, but because of administrative errors made decades ago by government departments. The most recent figures from the Department for Work and Pensions confirm that between January 2021 and March 2025, over 130,000 underpayments were identified, with a total of more than £800 million repaid to affected pensioners. That is a staggering figure. And yet, the correction rate is reportedly still not keeping pace with the scale of the problem. So who exactly is most at risk? There are 3 main groups, and each one has been identified in government data as being particularly vulnerable to state pension underpayments. The first group is married women who relied on their husband's national insurance contributions. Under the old state pension system, which applied to those who reached state pension age before April 2016, a married woman could receive a pension based partly on her husband's contributions if her own record was insufficient for the full amount. The problem is that this uplift was not always applied automatically. In many cases, when a husband retired and started receiving his state pension, the woman's pension was simply not reviewed and updated as it should have been. She continued to receive a lower rate, often for years, without realizing she was entitled to more. According to government data, around 47,000 married women were identified as having been underpaid through this correction exercise, receiving average back payments of around £5,500 each. The second group is widows and widowers. When a spouse or civil partner passes away, surviving partners may be entitled to inherit part of their late partner's state pension entitlement. But this inheritance of pension rights has not always been applied correctly. Many widows and widowers were simply not told they were entitled to an increased pension after bereavement, and the DWP did not always update their payments automatically. In fact, widowed pensioners received some of the highest average back payments in the correction exercise, more than £11,000 each on average. That is a significant sum of money that, in many cases, people had no idea they were owed. The third group involves parents and carers who are missing home responsibilities protection from their national insurance record. This is a slightly more complex issue, but it is extremely important, and it affects a very large number of people, particularly women who took time away from work to raise children between 1978 and 2010. Between those years, there was a government scheme called Home Responsibilities Protection, often referred to simply as HRP. This scheme was designed to protect the state pension entitlement of people who could not work because they were caring for children or for a sick or disabled person. If you were claiming child benefit during those years, HRP should have been credited to your national insurance record automatically. The problem arose because, before May 2000, it was not compulsory to include your national insurance number on a child benefit claim. As a result, many thousands of people who were perfectly entitled to home responsibilities protection never had it properly linked to their national insurance record. The gap simply sat there on the record, quietly reducing the state pension they would eventually receive. HMRC has estimated that up to 350,000 people may have been affected by this particular error. Many of them have already passed state pension age and are currently being underpaid without knowing it. To make this more concrete, let us think about a few realistic situations that pensioners commonly face. Consider Margaret, who is now in her mid-70s. She stopped work in the early 1980s to look after her 2 young children and claimed child benefit at the time. She went back to work part-time in the early 1990s and assumed her pension would be fine. When she retired, she received a state pension that felt lower than expected, but she assumed that was just the way it was. In reality, several years of home responsibilities protection were never recorded on her national insurance record because her original child benefit claim was made before 2000 and her national insurance number was never linked to it. Now consider Brian, who is 78. His wife passed away 3 years ago. She had a reasonable state pension based on a full working life. Brian's own pension was modest. He was entitled to inherit a portion of his late wife's pension entitlement, but nobody told him. His pension payments continued at the old rate, and he has been receiving less than he is entitled to ever since. And then there is Patricia, who is in her late 60s and reached state pension age after her husband had already retired. Her husband's pension was calculated and his payments began, but Patricia's pension was not reviewed at that point to check whether she was entitled to a higher rate based on his contributions. She has been quietly underpaid for several years. These are the kinds of situations that are playing out across the country right now. There are several things that often catch people out when it comes to this issue. The first is the assumption that if there was a problem, the DWP would have contacted you. In many cases, that has simply not happened. HMRC has been sending letters to people it believes may have been affected. But because child benefit records are only kept for 5 years before being destroyed, the government does not always have a complete picture of who is entitled. Receiving no letter does not mean you are unaffected. Many people have successfully claimed missing home responsibilities protection without ever having received a letter from HMRC. The second thing many people miss is the situation where child benefit was claimed in a partner's name, but the other partner was the main carer. Before the year 2000, home responsibilities protection was typically credited to the person who made the child benefit claim, usually the mother. But in households where the father stayed at home to care for the children while the mother went to work, the HRP may have gone to the wrong person or may not have been applied at all. Men in this situation are also eligible to check and claim. There is another point many people miss. Some pensioners who received letters from HMRC about this issue did not act on them, either because they did not recognize the term home responsibilities protection, were concerned the letter might be a scam, or found the online process difficult to navigate. Government research has confirmed that response rates to these letters have been worryingly low for exactly these reasons. If someone in your family received a letter like this and did nothing, it is worth having another look. And finally, many people are not aware that you can make a claim on behalf of someone who has already died. If a parent or grandparent may have been affected by any of these errors, a family representative or next of kin can apply on their behalf and may be entitled to any arrears that are due. So what should you actually do if you think any of this might apply to you? The first step is to check your national insurance record. You can do this by logging into your personal tax account on the HMRC website at gov.uk. You will be able to see a full breakdown of your qualifying years, and you can identify any gaps in the years between 1978 and 2010. If you are not comfortable doing this online, you can request a paper state pension forecast by contacting the Future Pension Center. The second step, if you find gaps in those years, is to use the Home Responsibilities Protection Eligibility Checker on gov.uk. This is a straightforward online tool that takes around 15 minutes to complete and will tell you whether you are likely eligible to make a claim. If you prefer not to use the online system, you can also apply by post using Form CF411, which is available from the HMRC National Insurance Helpline on 03002 003 500. If you are a widow or widower and you are uncertain whether your pension was updated correctly after your spouse passed away, the best first step is to contact the pension service directly. They can check whether your entitlement was reviewed at the time and whether you may be owed arrears. If you are a married woman who reached state pension age before April 2016, it is also worth checking whether your pension was correctly assessed at the time your husband retired. Again, contacting the pension service directly is the appropriate route. It is worth being aware that processing times for HRP claims can currently be lengthy. Reports suggest that some claims are taking several months to be processed and, in some cases, considerably longer. The advice from those familiar with the process is to submit your application as soon as possible and to keep copies of everything you send. If any of what we have discussed today sounds relevant to your own situation, please do not feel alarmed. These are administrative errors made by government departments. None of this is the fault of the pensioners affected. The important thing is that the process for correcting these errors exists, and many thousands of people have already received the back payments they were owed. If you are unsure how to navigate the process, a Citizens Advice Bureau or a regulated financial advisor may be able to assist. Depending on your circumstances, it may also be worth being aware that any back payment of state pension arrears is treated as taxable income. So it is worth understanding the potential tax implications before making any decisions about how to use the money. If you also receive any means-tested benefits, such as pension credit, an increase in your state pension could affect those entitlements, and it is sensible to seek guidance on how any change might interact with other support you receive. None of this should put you off checking. The potential amounts involved can be very significant, and every pensioner is entitled to receive the state pension they have earned. Let us bring together the key points from today. Official government figures show that around 6 in every 100 state pension claims is currently being underpaid. The three main groups at risk are married women whose pensions were not correctly updated based on their husband's contributions, widows and widowers who did not receive the pension increases they were entitled to after bereavement, and parents and carers, particularly those who claimed child benefit before May 2003, who have years of home responsibilities protection missing from their national insurance records. Many people in these groups have not received a letter from HMRC or the DWP, and the process has not always been straightforward. But the mechanism to check and claim what you are owed does exist, and the amounts involved can be substantial. The single most important thing you can do today is check your national insurance record on the HMRC website and look for gaps between 1978 and 2010. If you find any, use the HRP eligibility checker and consider making a claim. If it does not apply to you, you will lose nothing but a few minutes. If it does apply, it could make a significant difference to your retirement income. If this video has been helpful to you, we would love it if you would subscribe to Retirement Money UK. We cover topics like this regularly: state pension rules, DWP benefit changes, retirement income, savings, and all the UK money matters that affect people in or approaching retirement. There is a lot happening with pensions and government support right now, and we do our best to explain it clearly and fairly so you can make sense of what it means for you. Hit the subscribe button so you do not miss our future videos. And if you know someone who might benefit from checking their national insurance record, please do share this with them. It could be worth quite a lot to them. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next one.